When my daughter texted me those words, "We're too busy for family dinners now," it hit me harder than I thought it would. I stared at the screen, reading the sentence over and over again, wondering if maybe I misunderstood. But there it was. Cold, final. No explanation, no softened edges. Just a short declaration that something I valued deeply, something that tied me to both my daughter and my late wife, was no longer a part of her life. At first, I didn't respond. I just sat at the kitchen table with the phone in my hand, the blue glow lighting up my fingers, the silence of the house pressing down on me. My name is Michael Reeves, I'm 52 years old, and I live alone in the house where I raised my daughter. For years, that house has felt too big, too quiet, ever since Clara, my wife, passed away. She was the heart of this family. Her laugh used to echo down the hall, her voice filled every corner. After she was gone, dinners at the table were how I kept her memory alive. That table wasn't just any table. It was a dark oak dining set that had belonged to Clara's parents before us. It was heavy, old, polished to perfection, and she treated it as if it carried the soul of her family. When Clara and I first moved into this house, she placed it right in the center of the dining room. She said, "This is where we'll stay a family no matter what." For her, meals together weren't about food, they were about connection, laughter, listening to one another. So when I read Emily's text, it wasn't just about dinner, it was about family. It was about losing that last living connection to Clara. Emily, my daughter, she's 22 now, a senior in college, bright, ambitious, independent. She works almost full-time while finishing her degree. She has friends, a boyfriend, plans for the future. I'm proud of her, but it feels like every year she's slipping further away from me. I used to think our dinners could hold us together, at least once a week. Even when she was busy with classes, she'd come home, sit at the table, and for an hour it was like old times. Her smile reminded me of her mom. Her laugh carried the same lightness. But lately, she's been rushing through meals, distracted, half listening while her phone buzzed. And then came that message. "We're too busy for family dinners now." The "we" stung more than I expected. It wasn't just her, it was her boyfriend, her friends, her other life, the life that didn't include me anymore. I felt like a guest in my own family. I didn't want to beg her to come back. I didn't want to guilt her. But I also couldn't just accept it silently. After a few minutes, I stood up and walked into the dining room. The table was there, bathed in the faint light coming through the curtains. I traced my fingers along its surface. The wood still shined, even after decades of use. I remembered Clara setting it with care, Emily helping her fold napkins into triangles, the three of us laughing when I burned the Thanksgiving turkey. It was more than furniture. It was a memory, a history, a promise, and now it sat there like a monument to something already gone. So, instead of replying with words, I opened my phone camera. I snapped a photo of the table, just the table, no plates, no chairs pulled out, no family gathered around it. Empty. And then I typed, "It's gone. Your mother's table." I donated it today. I pressed send. It wasn't true, not yet. The table was still in front of me, but I wanted her to see what it would mean if I really let it go. I wanted her to feel, even for a second, the weight of what she was saying goodbye to. I sat there, waiting for her reply, the room silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. Seconds turned into minutes. My heart pounded like I'd just confessed something terrible. Why did I do it that way? Maybe because words hadn't been working anymore. Maybe because I wanted her to stop, to pause, to realize how much this mattered. This wasn't just about dinners. This was about us. About whether we were still a family or just two people drifting further apart. My name is Michael Reeves, and if you were to walk into my home today, you'd probably notice the silence before anything else. It's the kind of silence that hangs heavy, like a reminder of what's missing. The house itself is warm, filled with old photographs and little pieces of my late wife, Clara. She's been gone 5 years now, but I still catch myself expecting to hear her humming in the kitchen or see her handwriting on the fridge notes. The truth is, I never remarried. Clara wasn't just my wife, she was my anchor, my best friend, the glue that held our family together. Losing her was like losing the map of my life. For a while, I thought the house would swallow me whole, that I'd just fade into its empty rooms. But there was one thing that kept me steady. Dinners with my daughter, Emily. Emily is 22 now, finishing her last year of college. She's always been sharp, determined, the kind of girl who sets her mind on something and doesn't let go until she's mastered it. That's Clara's fire in her. She works nearly full-time at a marketing firm while keeping up with classes. She's juggling deadlines, exams, and a boyfriend named Tyler, who I've met a handful of times. They seem happy, and I try to stay out of her way. But sometimes I feel like I'm watching her life happen through a window instead of sitting inside it with her. Back when Clara was alive, dinners were sacred. No matter how busy life got, we sat at the dining table together. Clara would set the plates with care. Emily would fold the napkins into triangles, just like her mom taught her. And I would be the one sneaking bites before the food made it to the table. It was simple, but it was ours. And Clara always said, "This table isn't just wood, Michael. It's where we stay, a family." After Clara passed, I made a promise to myself. I'd keep that tradition alive. Every Sunday, Emily and I would sit down at that oak dining table, the one her mother had inherited from her own parents. It was more than furniture, it was history. It had scratches from when Emily spilled juice as a kid, burn marks from candles Clara liked to light, and grooves carved in from years of family gatherings. Sitting at that table felt like Clara was still there, like her spirit lingered between the meals and the laughter. In those first years after the funeral, the dinners weren't easy. Sometimes Emily would cry halfway through a meal, and I'd have to hold her hand across the table. Other times, I'd make one of Clara's favorite recipes and fail miserably, and Emily would laugh until her stomach hurt. Those dinners stitched us together in a time when everything felt like it was falling apart. But as Emily grew older, the rhythm started to break. First, it was her part-time job, then her late-night study groups, then her weekends spent with Tyler's family. She'd still show up when she could, but the dinners grew fewer, the conversations shorter. She'd sit at the table with her phone buzzing, half smiling at something on her screen while I tried to ask about her classes. I'd remind myself, she's busy, she's young, that's normal. But deep down, I feared I was losing her too, not in the same way I lost Clara, but slowly, inch by inch. I still remember the last real dinner we shared before her text. I had made chicken pot pie, one of Clara's recipes. Emily came in late, dropped her bag by the door, and sighed as she sat down. "Long day?" I asked, setting the pie on the table. "You have no idea," she said, pulling out her phone to check her messages. "Maybe put that away for a while," I said gently. "Let's just eat." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. She picked at her food, distracted, and after 20 minutes she was packing up leftovers and rushing out the door again. I sat there staring at the empty chair across from me, wondering if this was how it would always be now. I didn't say anything that night, but my chest ached with the thought that maybe the table didn't mean to her what it meant to me. Maybe I was the only one still holding on to Clara through this tradition. The house has never felt lonelier than in those moments after dinner, when the plates are cleared but the silence stays. I wash the dishes slowly, trying to stretch the routine, trying to fill the space where conversation used to live. And so when Emily's text finally came, "We're too busy for family dinners now," it didn't just confirm my worst fear. It shattered the last piece of what I thought was unbreakable. It wasn't just about food, it was about connection, it was about family. And now, even that seemed gone. When Emily's text came in, I read it 3 times before the meaning fully landed. "We're too busy for family dinners now." That was it. No sorry, no maybe later, no room for compromise. Just a blunt statement that the one tradition I had been fighting to hold on to was no longer part of her life. I sat at the table, my phone heavy in my hand, my heart sinking deeper with each passing second. The silence in the room seemed louder than ever. I looked across at the empty chairs, and for a moment I imagined Clara sitting there, shaking her head in disbelief. Clara would have never let this happen. She would have found a way to remind Emily that family dinners weren't just about food, but about love, about staying connected. I wanted to call Emily right away, to tell her how much those dinners meant to me, to her late mother, to us as a family. But I froze. My throat tightened, and my chest burned with words I couldn't bring myself to type or say out loud. Instead, I stared at the oak dining table. Its surface glowed faintly in the afternoon light, polished and worn from years of use. The wood bore scars from our lives together. Little grooves from Emily's homework pencils, faint burn marks from Clara's candles. To anyone else, it was just a piece of furniture. To me, it was everything. The text wasn't just Emily saying she was busy. It was her telling me that the table no longer mattered, that the memories we built here could be boxed away like old photo albums. That stung more than I can explain. I pushed back from the chair and paced around the room, the phone buzzing again with another notification. Probably not from Emily. I couldn't shake the thought that I was being replaced, phased out of her life. First Clara, now Emily. The people I loved most seemed to slip through my fingers no matter how tightly I tried to hold on. The questions circled my head. Did she really mean it? Or was she just frustrated, overwhelmed with school and work? Was she trying to avoid me? Or was she trying to avoid the table, the reminder of her mom? I didn't know, and the not knowing twisted me up inside. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the creaks of the old house. Memories of past dinners replayed in my head like an endless reel. Emily's little giggles at age 5 when she spilled milk all over the table. Clara reaching across to brush a strand of hair behind Emily's ear. The three of us sharing inside jokes about my terrible attempts at cooking. I couldn't imagine life without that anchor, without the ritual that gave me purpose after Clara was gone. But now, Emily's words kept echoing, "We're too busy." Too busy for me, too busy for her mother's memory, too busy for the one tradition I thought we'd both cling to forever. The next morning, I tried to distract myself. I brewed coffee, flipped through the paper, but my eyes kept wandering back to the table. Every scratch, every stain told a story. And suddenly, instead of feeling comfort, it filled me with a sharp sense of betrayal. Why was I the only one carrying the weight of this heirloom? Why was I the only one showing up to honor Clara? I thought about calling Emily again, but something inside me resisted. If I begged her, if I forced her, what would that mean? Would she come out of guilt, scrolling through her phone while I desperately tried to hold a conversation? That wasn't what Clara wanted. She wanted real family, not obligation. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I was caught in a losing battle. I couldn't keep clinging to a tradition that Emily no longer valued. But at the same time, letting it go felt like betraying Clara. I sat down at the table again, this time pulling out my phone. My thumb hovered over Emily's text. I wanted to write back, "This isn't just dinner. This is about your mom. This is about us." But I knew those words wouldn't land. Not now, maybe not ever. So instead I typed nothing. I sat in silence, the phone screen going dark, my reflection staring back at me. That's when the idea first crept into my mind, an idea I didn't want to acknowledge. Maybe it was time to let the table go. Maybe if Emily didn't see value in these dinners, then holding on to this piece of furniture was just me, torturing myself with the past. The thought horrified me, but it also lit a strange fire inside me. For the first time, I wasn't just grieving Clara. I was grieving the family dinners, the very thing that had tethered me to both her and Emily. I didn't act right away. But I knew, deep down, something was about to change, and Emily had no idea what was coming. The morning after Emily's text, I woke up to a house that felt colder than usual. Not physically colder, but emptier, like the walls themselves were whispering back at me. "She's gone, Michael. She's moved on." I shuffled into the kitchen, poured myself a cup of coffee, and sat down at the oak dining table. I ran my hand across the smooth surface, tracing the familiar grooves that only I seemed to notice anymore. For years, this table had been the center of our lives. Clara's birthday cakes, Emily's homework sessions, Thanksgiving spreads that barely fit across its length. It had seen love, laughter, even tears. Now, it saw only me. I stared at it for a long time that morning. The words from Emily's text echoed in my mind. "We're too busy for family dinners now." They weren't just words, they were a wall that separated me from her. And that's when the thought hit me again, stronger this time, almost like a command. Let it go. Let the table go. At first, I resisted. It felt like betrayal. Clara had inherited this table from her parents. She cherished it. She polished it every Sunday morning, even when no one was coming over. She used to say, "This table has held 3 generations together. Someday it will hold 4. And yet, staring at it now, I realized something painful. Maybe what once held us together was now keeping us apart. Emily didn't see the table as a link to her mother anymore. To her, it was just an anchor to memories she wasn't ready, or maybe wasn't willing to face. So I made the decision. It was the hardest decision I'd made since signing the papers for Clara's funeral arrangements. But I picked up the phone, dialed the local donation center, and asked if they accepted furniture. They said yes, and that they could come by later that week. When I hung up, I felt a strange mix of dread and relief. Dread because I knew how final this would be. Relief because maybe, just maybe, by letting go of the table I could let go of the weight that was crushing me. Over the next 2 days, I prepared myself. I cleared the chairs, polished the wood one last time. I stood back and looked at it, trying to memorize every detail. I even whispered to Clara, something I hadn't done in years. "Clara," I said softly, "if I let this go, I hope you understand. I don't think Emily can carry this with me anymore. Maybe it's too heavy for her. Maybe it's too heavy for both of us." I don't know if I expected an answer, but in that quiet house, speaking her name out loud gave me a little strength. On the morning the donation truck was scheduled to arrive, I felt sick to my stomach. I made coffee but couldn't drink it. My hands shook as I folded the chairs and leaned them against the wall. I wanted to cry, but no tears came. Instead, I picked up my phone. I thought of Emily. I thought of her text, her busy life, her drifting away, and then, before the truck even arrived, I made my move. I walked around the table slowly, snapped a photo of it standing there, bare and empty. No dishes, no laughter, no family. Just the skeleton of what once was. Then I opened our text thread and I sent her the picture. Underneath it I typed, "It's gone. Your mother's table. I donated it today and I hit send." The truth was, the table was still in the room, waiting to be hauled off. But I sent that message as if it were already gone, because in my heart I had already let it go. I sat back in the chair, staring at the phone, waiting. Would she reply immediately? Would she call, furious or heartbroken? Or would there be nothing, just silence, confirming that this table, this tradition, this family bond mattered only to me? Every minute felt like an hour. My chest tightened as I realized I had crossed a line I couldn't uncross. This was no longer about a piece of wood. This was a message, a test, maybe even a cry for help. I didn't know what Emily would do, but I knew one thing. I had made my choice. I wasn't going to beg her anymore. If she couldn't see the value in this piece of her mother's legacy, then holding on to it alone was nothing more than punishing myself. When the donation truck finally pulled into the driveway that afternoon, I stood at the door, watching the men carry the table out. It looked smaller once it left the house, like its power had, drained from it the second it crossed the threshold. As they loaded it into the truck, I pulled out my phone again, staring at the screen, praying Emily would respond. Because now, the table was truly gone. And so was my last safety net. After I sent Emily the photo of the empty dining table with the words, "It's gone. Your mother's table." I donated it today. I expected a reply within seconds. My phone didn't buzz. No dots, no typing, no call, just silence. I tried to tell myself she was in class or at work, too busy to notice, but as the minutes turned to hours, a pit formed in my stomach. Had I gone too far? Had I just burned the last bridge between us? By the time the sun dipped low in the sky, the dining room looked unfamiliar. The table was gone, the floor bare except for the shadows of where it used to stand. For the first time in years, I could see the pattern of the wood floor beneath. The room felt hollow, stripped of its heartbeat. That night, I sat in the living room with the lights off, staring at my silent phone. I thought about calling her, explaining that I only wanted her to see what it meant when she said, "too busy." But the words wouldn't come. I felt like a man who had thrown his last card on the table and was waiting for the dealer to show me whether I'd won or lost everything. Then, just past 9, my phone lit up with her name. Not a text, a call. I answered immediately. "Emily." Her voice came through, shaky, almost breathless. "Dad, what do you mean you donated Mom's table?" I swallowed hard. "It's gone. The donation center picked it up this afternoon. You said you were too busy for family dinners. I thought maybe I should stop holding on to something that doesn't matter anymore." There was silence on the line, then a sharp inhale. "You can't just, Dad, that table was Mom's. You can't just give it away like some old couch." Her words cut deep, but I stayed steady. "Emily, I begged you to keep this tradition alive." I set the table every Sunday, waiting. I sat here hoping it would mean as much to you as it did to your mom. But all I got was excuses, and finally, you told me outright it doesn't matter. So I let it go. For a moment I thought she'd hang up. Instead, her voice cracked, and I heard the sound of her holding back tears. "Do you even know why I stopped coming, Dad? Do you know why I couldn't sit at that table anymore?" My chest tightened. "Because you're busy." "That's what you said." "No," she said softly, "because it hurts." That word landed like a punch. She continued, her voice trembling. "Every time I sat at that table, I saw Mom." I remembered her voice, her smile, the way she made dinner feel like home, and I couldn't handle it. I didn't want to admit it to you, but the table doesn't feel like family to me anymore. It feels like loss. It's like she's supposed to be there, but she isn't, and I couldn't. Keep pretending I was okay with that. I sat there in stunned silence, the weight of her words crushing me. All this time, I thought she didn't care. I thought she was drifting away, replacing me with her busy life, but the truth was so different. She wasn't running from me. She was running from the grief that a table carried. My voice cracked as I asked, "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want to hurt you," she whispered. "I didn't want you to think I didn't care about Mom or about you." But every Sunday, sitting at that table, it was like ripping open a wound I couldn't heal. For the first time in years, I didn't feel angry at her. I felt her pain, raw and honest, and it broke me. I closed my eyes and said, "Emily, I wasn't trying to push you. I needed something to hold on to, something of your mother's. And when you stopped showing up, I felt like I was losing you too." Her voice cracked again. "I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't mean to push you away. I just didn't know how to handle it." There was a pause, and then she said the words I had been longing to hear. "I don't care about the table, but I care about you, and I don't want to lose us." I felt tears burning in my eyes. "You won't," I said. "We don't need the table to be a family." We just need each other. Minutes later, I heard the sound of a car pulling into the driveway. I opened the door, and there she was, Emily, standing on the porch with tears streaking her cheeks. She didn't say anything at first. She just stepped forward and wrapped her arms around me, clinging tight like she did when she was little. "I'm sorry," she whispered against my shoulder. "I'm sorry too," I said, holding her close. "We'll start new. No table, no rules, just us." For the first time in years, the house didn't feel empty. It felt alive again because she was there, and because we were finally facing the truth together. That night, after Emily showed up at my door and we finally hugged away years of unspoken pain, the house felt different. It wasn't that Clara's absence hurt less. It always would. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was grieving alone. Emily and I sat together in the living room for hours, just talking. No table, no plates, no ritual, just us. She told me about the weight she carried every time she walked into the dining room. How the sight of that oak table made her chest tighten because it reminded her of the one person we couldn't bring back. She admitted she avoided dinners not because she didn't care about me, but because she cared too much, and couldn't face the memories that surfaced with every meal. Hearing that broke me and healed me all at once. For years, I had mistaken her silence for distance, her absence for indifference. But it wasn't distance, it was grief. We had been mourning in different ways. I clung to the table like a lifeline, trying to preserve the past while she ran from it, trying to escape the pain. As the clock ticked past midnight, Emily leaned against me like she used to when she was a child. She said softly, "I don't want us to stop being a family just because Mom's gone. I just can't keep sitting at that table." It hurts too much. I squeezed her hand and told her the truth. "Emily, we don't need the table. We don't need the heirlooms, or the routines, or the rituals if they cause more pain than healing. What matters is us, showing up for each other in whatever way we can." A few days later, we went together to a second-hand furniture store. It wasn't anything special, just a modest little shop with mismatched chairs and wobbly tables. Emily picked out a small round table, plain and unremarkable, but her face lit up when she said, "This one feels right. It's new. It doesn't have any ghosts attached to it." We brought it home and set it up in the dining room. The space looked smaller without Clara's grand oak table, but somehow it felt lighter, freer. We ate takeout pizza that night, sitting across from each other, laughing at how uneven the table legs were. For the first time in a long while, dinner felt like something we chose, not something we carried like a burden. And that's when it hit me. Clara's table wasn't the heart of our family. Love was. The table had been a vessel, a symbol, but symbols can weigh you down if you cling to them too tightly. Now, when Emily visits, we don't always sit at the table. Sometimes we eat on the couch, sometimes at the counter, sometimes we just share coffee in the living room. The place doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that she's here, that we're present with each other. I've learned something I want anyone listening to understand. Family traditions are beautiful, but they can't survive on guilt or obligation. They only live if love gives them breath. Holding on to the past so tightly that it suffocates the present isn't honoring the people we've lost. It's trapping ourselves in grief. When Clara was alive, she always said, "This table will hold us together." And for a while it did. But what she really meant, I think, was that family itself, the love we give each other, is what holds us together. The table was just the stage. The play was always us. Losing the heirloom wasn't easy. Watching it leave the house felt like burying a second piece of Clara. But I've come to realize that memories don't live in wood or fabric or polished surfaces. They live in us. In the way Emily tilts her head when she laughs like her mom did. In the way I still cook Clara's recipes even when I burn them. In the way we carry her love forward. That's what I want people to take away from this. Let go of the things that keep you stuck in pain. Hold on to the people who are still here. Don't let grief build walls where love could build bridges. The dining table may be gone, but our family isn't. It's different, it's smaller, but it's still alive. And as Emily hugged me goodbye that night, she said something I'll never forget. "Dad, it doesn't matter where we sit, as long as we sit together." And she was right. Because family isn't built on heirlooms, it's built on love that shows up again and again in new ways. So that's my story, a story about a table, yes, but really it's about learning that family isn't tied to furniture, rituals, or even the past. It's tied to love, to showing up for the people who matter, even when it's hard, even when grief gets in the way. If you're watching this and you've got someone in your life you've been drifting away from, don't wait for a tradition or an object to bring you back together. Pick up the phone, send that message, show up, because at the end of the day, it's not the table that matters, it's the people sitting around it. If this story touched you, if it made you think of your own family, do me a favor. Like the video so it reaches others who might need to hear it. Share it with someone you love, maybe as a way of saying, "You matter to me." And if you want more stories like this, real, raw, and straight from the heart, subscribe to the channel and join me here again. Because we all have stories that remind us of what's truly important, and I'd love for you to be part of this community where we tell them together. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourself, and take care of your family.